Hotepu Gatekeepers. This month, we are now entering the cycle of the scales of what you know as Libra. We call the god Meow, you see on the screen, the cat god. This is the month in our virtues cycle where we remind the community to refresh their understanding and mastery of the laws of heaven. In this case, the laws of Meow, the cat. So this is the Libra cycle, and the question of the moment is why the love god is a cat. Well, let's first look at the images on the screen, and you'll see the ancient Kemetic image of the sign of Libra. It shows two heavenly scales filled with stars, and at the center point is a circle with a young boy emerging from a lotus with his hand to his mouth. This is very important, this image, in terms of how the blacks of Kemet, how the gay shamans of Black Kemet saw Libra. The first thing to note is what's different here is that we have this circle on top of this young boy with his finger to his mouth. This implies that you want to have your chakras awakened. This little figure represents your inner child. So when you have a relationship, a lot of your inner child issues, your early life issues, your unresolved wounds with your parents come up. They start to speak. That's why he's pointing to his mouth on one level, that whomever you join with will trigger all of your childhood wounds and issues with your parents. In other words, you'll be attracted to someone who reminds you of your parents from when you were a child. Astounding insight from 10,000 years ago of the gay black shamans of the Nile Valley. The finger to the mouth means two things. One, your inner child issues are quiet. He's performing like a shh gesture, a silencing gesture, meaning many people aren't aware that they carry quietly, silently within themselves their childhood baggage into each relationship. The other meaning of the finger to the mouth represents the inner child is looking for someone to feed him the healing food, the healing spiritual and emotional medicines that he needs to resolve those childhood wounds. So it means your issues are quiet beneath the surface. It also means your issues are looking for resolution or the nourishing medicines to intake. This chant also means that you will need words of power. This is the gesture of not speaking, but rather chanting mentally, speaking within the mind, but not using the physical mouth. So it's a silence, an external silence, but an internal chanting. That's also amplified by the flower he's sitting upon. That flower is the chakra system. That many of your inner wounds of your child, your inner child's wounds, reside within your chakras. They took residence like a disease or a virus lurking, hiding deep within your chakras, which are your psychological centers. And so I have developed a very intricate system of chakra work. And I'll be doing programs of teaching people the love sciences of Kemet. It truly is a science, as the scales I'll mention in a minute imply. So you have to know how to go into your chakras, revisit the wounds, regress back and heal them through your mate. The scales symbolize that you have to measure people. You don't just fall in love because when you fall, you always get hurt. No one falls and doesn't get hurt in some way. So the phrase falling in love is anathema to a healthy relationship. It's not the best way to get involved with one. This is a pair of scales. Scales are a mathematical tool of measure and weighing something. So in Kemet, the word to think, one of the words to think was to weigh. Are you measuring this situation? Are you weighing it carefully? We still use that phrase in modern languages. So when you meet someone, you have to weigh and measure them. But to weigh and measure means you must have a standard, a metric, against which to measure that person and to measure your readiness to get involved in a relationship. So, you see here, I have written the scales of Libra of how to measure love. This is the word for love in Egyptian called meri. And then I wrote its business contract. What I'm saying is that this is taking you far from the white people's understanding of love. In fact, even for white people in the Western cultures, how we see love today is rather new. It's a rather new construct. Began around the 1400s with the troubadours in France. Before the troubadour movement in France, which basically were the Britney Spears and the Elvis Presleys of France, going around strumming on their little guitars to ladies in balconies about love, these love songs. And the books Tristan and Isolde, those kinds of love stories began to become popular in white people's cultures in Europe, and that began this movement of what we now know as romantic love. Before that, it was arranged love, arranged marriages, arranged situations. For most of human history, bonding with someone, joining with someone, was a more thought out process and much less of an emotional process. Definitely in Africa, in traditional Africa, to get involved with someone had a lot of non-romantic input. The parents, the local shaman and priests. There were dowries. There were all these mechanisms to help the young, silly couple, because when you're young, you're silly. What do you know when you're young? So you need the input of the elders, of the religion, of the shamans, the priests, and of the community's pressure to keep the couple functional. So it was very involved. We see this still today in many traditional Hindu ways of approaching marriage through, first of all, their astrologer. So you want to weigh and measure the person you're looking at. So this is not an emotional activity. It is a mental activity. Libra is an air sign. Air always means logic, to think, objective reason, and rationalizing through clear thought. So we're already way out of white people's understanding. We're way away from the European understanding of romantic love. Now, as I'll say in a minute, we don't turn our face against romance, but it's not what determines if you will attach to someone and connect with that person on a deep level. So these scales are very important. What are you weighing? What are you measuring? A lot of things. One of the first things you look at is what we call synastry astrology charts or compatibility astrology charts. Now, what's different in the gaze system that we are here at the Golden Beetle in terms of compatibility science, which I'll be teaching a very intensive course on this, because everyone knows that relationships are so powerful in your lives. They affect you in every way, on every level of your being. So something of this power in life, this impact, must not, I underscore must not, be entered into carelessly. Take your time. If you have any wisdom in you, apply it here. Pick the right mate. It can change everything or ruin everything if you get it wrong. But you see here in this image, beneath the cat, these words, meow. That's the actual Egyptian word for the cat god, meow. The cat god of 9 lives / spirit bodies. That's very key. Because we at the Golden Beetle are voodoo gay shamans. When they look at compatibility charts, we look at basically 9 charts. Because each of your spirit bodies, you're not just one being, one entity, or one layer of a being. You are one being, but you have layers. You have systems within systems. Like you have a nervous system and a hormone system and a skeletal system. You have different systems in one body. Same thing spiritually. You have one big spirit, but it has systems within systems within systems, like a fractal. So you have 9 basic spirit bodies. They are separate, and they often don't like each other. You have your physical body, we call your kat. You have your aura, your energetic body, known as your meridian system, your chakras and meridians body. We call that your shuhut. You have your inner child called your ka. You have your ab, which is your mind. You have your ren, which is your name, your spiritual name. You have your ujat, which is your imagination, your imaginal body. You have what's called your shakum, which is your astrology body, your charts, and the power of your charts. You have your what's called your ku or aku, which is your destiny reading. You have that body, and then we have a chart for that, and then you have a chart for your ba, your divine spark, that which unites the other 8 bodies. Now here's the onion, as they said in Kemet, meaning here's the core of the situation, the real bite. When you do compatibility charts from our gay voodoo Kemetic angle, I train the priests to analyze all 9 bodies' compatibility. Because you can be compatible in one set of charts, the 2 people. So maybe their Ka charts, their astrology wheel, the classical astrology wheel with the Ram of Aries, the Bull of Taurus, that's your Ka. Your Ka reveals its karma through that chart. But we have a different chart, altogether different, for your Shahut, your meridians, your energetics. That's a completely different chart with completely different mathematics, and it's just as powerful. We call that your Sahu chart, your Orion constellation chart. So you can have a couple which you go to a regular astrologer who may do regular astrology wheel, Taurus, Gemini, that kind of thing. Do a synastry or composite or compatibility chart and do it very well. And come out with you two are compatible. You two men are compatible. But what they're missing is the rest of that sentence. You're compatible in your Ka level. But you have 8 other levels of interaction. 8 other spirit bodies that are going to interact with that person. So you may be A plus compatible on your astrology Ka chart, but completely F minus on your Orion charts. Or on your Kat chart, your physical body charts. Or on your Ku chart. Your Ku is your wisdom body, your oracle. So what's going to happen is, different times of your relationship, you're going to use different parts of your spirit to talk and interact with each other. And if those other levels are not woven harmoniously, that's the area of weakness. That's the link, the weak chain in the link. What I'm saying, to give it a visual, imagine that you are a being made of, you are a chain. Your spirit is like a chain made of 9 links. And the person you're with, the man you're with, so we have 2 gay men. The first man's spirit has 9 chain links. Of course, the second man's spirit has 9 chain links. So we have 2 chains, and we have to connect them. The thing is, at the bottom of the chain, we're going to put a weight, a ball bearing, a lead ball bearing, because whenever you want to grow, you have to have challenge, something pulling on you. So what's going to happen if we put a ball bearing, a lead ball bearing at the bottom of each of the 9 chain link chains, the weight of the lead at the bottom is going to cause the weak link to splay open. This is the weak link. So let's say we have these 2 chains with the ball bearing at the bottom, and then we put a single chain to bind the 2. So it forms like a letter H. The 2 chains in the end form like a DNA molecule, yes, or like a ladder, okay? So if, let's say, man A's Ka, his inner child's chart, is weak in relationships, that's the part that will splay open and distort the whole chain when the two inner children must speak back and forth to each other. So for us, for my gay shamans, compatibility science, I take it very seriously because it can make or break you. If you pick the wrong person, people are murdered and betrayed and robbed by the wrong mates day in, day out. The heartbreak, it can devastate you. It's not a game. So I take it very seriously, and I have a very thorough, over 20 years of research system of how to keep people happy in relationships. And if these 9 levels of compatibility don't work, you either don't bond with that person or you commit to a very intensive program of strengthening the weak link. This is so key because all of you want love. All of you want to share your life with someone. It's universal. That's why it's called a cardinal sign. Cardinal means loud. The cardinal signs are really loud. They're really hard to avoid. You see? And a relationship, the call of a cardinal sign is virtually impossible to mute. Everybody has a loud longing for love. Every single one of you. It's a big deal. So it's important you get it right. You don't want to blow this one. Okay? So it's a set of scales, which means weigh and measure. So we're weighing and measuring 9 levels of compatibility from an astrology point of view and a destiny point of view. You should have compatible destiny gods, compatible Ka chart, Shahut chart, Kat chart, Ab chart. They should all be compatible, and we score it. And the higher the score, the more your 9 bodies want to work as a team and not as some rebels and some traitors. Okay, now, the next thing is scales teeter. That teetering of the scales corresponds to your transits, your astrology chart, how it changes month by month. Certain things in you tend to rise up and speak while other things recede in the background, and it kind of cycles. So you want to be able to understand that the relationship will go through times when your strengths will come to the front or when your weaknesses may come to the front. They teeter-totter. So this scale tipping means you want to always watch each other's karma transits. The cycles when certain psychological principles in you come up. Now, some of these psychological forces in you, these needs in you, may be a mess or may be really mature and well formed. Depends on your karma and how you've worked on yourself. Okay? The scales also mean, although it's got 2 pans, it's 1 scale. This is called projection. Again, like the child. The person you're with is really a reflection of you, but looks like it's opposite to you. Looks like another pan, but it's really 1 scale. So when you're angry at your mate, you're angry at something in yourself. When you're loving your mate, you're loving something within yourself. It's this mystical understanding that it looks like 2, but it's only 1. The first gay man's projecting to gay man B, and gay brother B is projecting to gay brother A. But it's only 1. There's a oneness, this kind of synchronicity and projection game going on in a psychological sense. So to heal things with your mate is to heal yourself. And to heal yourself will improve things with your mate. Looks like two, but really is one. Okay? Now, I have here this glyph again of the word for love, meri, which is a tool for tilling the soil. It's a till for creating a furrow in the ground to plant seeds. Basically, what does it mean? That's the word for love, called meri, or we pronounce marira. Marira, or meri. Why is a till the word for love? Because love is work. You have to get dirty. You have to get to the root of issues. You have to make it grow and cultivate it so bugs and insects don't destroy the garden of love. Get dirty, get to work. You have to know how to farm. There's a lot of layering to this metaphor of a till. Are you willing to dig in the dirt about yourself and get dirty with it? Are you willing to grow and plant new seeds? Are you willing to take out the weeds of love in yourself, of your inner child problems and issues? Do you understand that you have to farm according to nature, to cycles? The sun cycle, the moon cycle, the seasonal cycle. That's called astrology. This glyph links love science to astrology cycles because you can't grow things outside of astrology, which is the seasons. Tropical astrology is the astrology of the seasons. That's what it is. Many people want love to be all flowery and rosy. You can have the flowers and roses if you get yourself dirty and go in the dirt and till and plant and water and all that stuff that is required to have a beautiful garden of love. It's work. Then I wrote, it's a business contract, meaning this is a very important component. The cat god of Libra, Meow, is not unconditional love. Unconditional love is a joke, it's a facade, and it's a fantasy. It's a big delusion that will get you in a lot of trouble. No one with a mate has unconditional love. No one bonding is bonding unconditionally. So let's erase that fallacy. Let's get out of that delusion and come back to reality. When you bond with someone, it must be absolutely conditional. You have to have a contract because you already do. In your mind, your inner child here has a fantasy in his head of the perfect relationship, the perfect way of communicating, the perfect way of dating, the perfect sex, the perfect going out to events, the perfect home together. You have already in your head, before you meet A, B, C, or D male, in your head you have these pictures of the perfect love, the perfect day with that love, the perfect nights with that love, the perfect life with that love. So you have a bunch of conditions already in you, let's be honest. And the person that you may find already has in their head a whole laundry list of conditions about what the perfect man is like. So, that's clearly conditional. That's the way it's been since the beginning of time. The difference is your conditions can be based either upon the childish wounds of your inner child's issues or upon a scientific basis of weighing and measuring. These two images are so important. That's why the African astrology of Kemet is key versus more modern symbols. You can base it upon childhood wounds or divine measure and science. That's the choice. So you want to first learn the science of how to measure the quality of another man. There should be a school for this. There's a school for driving. You need a driver's license to drive on the roads. You need a gardener's license to garden someone's front yard professionally. Why is there no license for love science? There's a science to this. That's why it scales. A measuring tool, a scientific calculator. Scales are a calculator of sorts, an ancient calculator. There must be schools for love. And that's what I've created. A very intense training program for those who want to become counselors or to become more understanding of how love really works. Because it's big, it's cardinal, it's loud. So you don't want to use as your foundation of bonding with someone your cockamamie inner child issues of what love looks like. So let's erase that from out. Let's kind of pretend we're going to black this out for a minute, or just kind of cover this for a minute, and look only at the scales. Cover your inner child issues, look at the science of it. A few quick notes. Number one, look at the health of the person. Are they healthy? Weigh and measure that carefully, because if they're not, you're going to pay for that. If they're full of disease and plague and such, you want to know that. If they have, you want to look at their family history of DNA of health issues. Doesn't mean they're going to have those issues, but you want to ask yourself, if that happened to my man, do I want to deal with that? Just knowing it's a possibility helps you have a rational, weighed and measured, mature approach. Number two, in terms of their history, are they a criminal? There are a few things you should always avoid. Always avoid alcoholics, drug addicts, or people that do drugs. Automatically, they're off the market. Don't go there. Sorry, but don't go there. The same way I don't want a drug addict pilot, an alcoholic pilot. I don't want a pilot that does drugs and drinks. It's not going to happen. Don't go on that plane. It's the same kind of caveat. So there's a set of people automatically that are removed from the playing field. If the person does drugs, that includes marijuana, or has addictions, run. Don't even look. Don't go there. Just don't get on that airplane. Don't get on that airplane. If the person drinks, is an alcoholic, or has a history of it, don't get on that airplane. Find someone else. There are plenty of fish in the sea, plenty of mermen in the sea. Keep looking. Some of you are going to say, oh, I want to help people, in love will conquer all. Okay. It's not going to work. You've been warned. Good luck with that. But we know the ending of the story. Okay? Addicts and alcoholics are people, very broken people. They are very broken souls. We call them a pop. They are worshippers of the lowest in themselves. Don't go there. Just don't get on that plane. Don't let that pilot fly you into the clouds of love. You're going to crash and burn. That's number one. That's number two there. So look at their health. Look at their addiction issues. If they were a former addict, run. Don't get involved. I've been doing this for 25 years. Not once have I seen, when you had a sober person or a non-drug using person involved with an alcoholic or a drug user, it never ended well. And always the non-alcoholic, the clean person, got the worst of it. They were destroyed. I have seen this over and over and over, where I can say it is a law of love. I can elevate it to a law. Run for your life. Okay, now next. Sorry, and that's the truth. Like a pilot. Don't get on a pilot's plane who is an alcoholic, drunk, or drug user. Alright, next. Family history. Do they come from a bunch of criminals? Do they have a lot of social issues and ails? You want to know that information, because that's their ancestors. And every person links back to their ancestors. So we look at health history very carefully. Not only if they have an STD, but if they have propensity to certain serious life ailments. Doesn't mean you won't join with them if they do, but you should know that you're about to join with a potential in that direction. And you can be surprised with new ailments. We understand that, but we're trying to minimize your pain. Run from any addict if they smoke tobacco, if they smoke cigarettes, marijuana, drugs, any of the drugs, crack, cocaine, crystal meth, or booze. Run and look at their family history carefully. You want to vet them as if you're looking at an interview for a job. You want to find out the person's background. Does the person have a criminal record? You want to know that information. Okay? Doesn't mean if their family has a bunch of criminals in it that they're going to be a criminal, but you would want to know that, just FYI. So those are a few of the bullets we look at that are non-astrological. Then we go through a very intricate comparing, weighing and measuring of scales of your two sets of 9 charts, that compatibility science. With all that done, we then look at some things you just may like as a preference. You might like tall men, short men, muscle men, skinny men, intellectual men, athletic men. The more things from your child, your own kind of emotional needs, we then look into that pool of men. After we've exhausted the more logical side, the history, the family history, the health history, the basic use of drugs or not use of drugs, after those common sense things. Oh, and also, of course, their financial portfolio. You want to know, how do they see finances? How do they relate to money? Because trust me, it will matter. Some men are users. They want a sugar daddy. They want to lay on people and get their stuff. Some are hardworking. Some like to cooperate. Some don't like to cooperate. You want to know how they work with money. And also cultural and spiritual background. I find that people of different religious backgrounds have a very hard time working it out in the end. So, for example, for the Golden Beetle men, I recommend they find other Golden Beetle men, men who follow Kemet. It just makes a lot of things easier. With those things in place, those are all the scales to us, the scales here of measure and weighing. Then we look at things you like, certain kind of hair or a certain kind of look or height, whatever. That's more this inner child's wishes. But the child's wishes do not come before reason. Adults are rational, children are irrational. Okay, now I have here also a list of required talents or geniuses for relationships, for love. We have the planet Benosar Venus here, Hurukapet Saturn here, and Tehuti Apshetataui Jupiter here. Venus, Saturn, Jupiter. Venus owns Libra. Libra exalts Saturn. And this is called the vitamin, which is a thing that is in the Golden Beetle astrology technique. So we have the Lord of the Scales, the planet exalted in the scales, and the vitamin that nourishes the scales. Basically, you have to have a really good sense of Benosar, which we call meow. Meow. You have to have a really good sense of sweetness, beauty, charm, etiquette, compromise, pleasure, sexuality, and beauty. Keep your looks. Benosar's Lord of Libra. Venus owns the scales. Keep your looks. Be sweet. Watch your mouth. Speak kindly. Speak as if the person has feelings like you. Ptah here, Rukapet here, Saturn, means it's hard work. Relationships, Saturn or Rukapet is the planet of maturity and of hard labor, like a farmer. Nitty-gritty stuff. So you don't want to enter a relationship immaturely. You must have the elders' input from the African point of view. You must have discipline, measure, and control. You must be willing to work very hard, to sweat and to suffer. Rukapet, or Saturn, is your capacity to suffer and keep going, to not allow suffering and labor and the duty required, a dutiful sense of commitment here, to stop you. And Ma'a here, or Tehuti Apsheta, Jupiter, represents you must have a priest, a relationship guru that you two go to help bring wisdom and counsel into your bond. You need a third party who is a wise person, a priest of the oracle, because Tehuti Apsheta, or Jupiter, is the oracle. Both parties must be willing to have Venus or Venus, beauty, charm, manners, etiquette, sensitivity, sweetness, and patience. Hurukapet, Saturn, is also patience, hard work, duty, and commitment. Tehuti Apsheta, Jupiter, is a love guru, a priest who understands the oracles. You must have the same religious philosophy or life philosophy. You must have optimism, hope, and the desire to expand yourself and each other in love. The poisons to the scales are here: Herudashera, Mars, and Ra, or the Sun. Herudashera, Mars, is what's called detrimented in the scales. I mean, doesn't do well. Mars is fighting, egocentrism, me, 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 me. Fighting does not help relationships. Arguing does not help relationships. I don't care how much you think you're in the right. Arguing about it does not help. Communicating about it does help, but in a non-argumentative fashion. You must discuss things in a sweet, Venusian, sweet, clear, sensitive way. Also, Ra, the Sun, is ego. Ego does not work in a relationship. So avoid the poisons, develop the talents of Venus or Venus, Hurukapet, Saturn, and Tehuti Apsheta, Jupiter. And remember, enter love with air and a set of scales. When you see someone you like, you should have a set of scales in your hand. Imagine yourself carrying a set of scales, and you're interviewing the person. You're weighing and measuring them according to our eternal standards of health, drug use, family background, financial profile, cultural and spiritual background, police records. What happened to your last relationships? Why did they fall apart? You want to know all that information, and they should know it about you. It goes both ways. Then we add the scales of weighing and measuring your 9 astrology charts. And over here we have the word of power, Ong Xiang Huaklangja. Ong Xiang Huaklangja. This is the love chant, one of our love chants. I have a video also on the Heka for relationships on the YouTube video. I'll put a link below. But this is a different chant, and this chant is the chant that helps you to be loyal and mature in a relationship, remembering to celebrate discovering new levels of inner beauty with each other and outer beauty with each other, for the praise of the divine in the person. Basically, it means, or it implies, the divine light of heaven binds us as one water drop to another, 2 drops becoming as one perfect single drop, joyously celebrating, seeing the beauty in each other's divinity every day. Ong Sheng Hua Klang Ja. You chant that, that's what it invokes, because you need words of power. Words of power. That's shown here in this Hurukapet, Saturn, and Jupiter symbols. both these gods deal a lot with chants, what we call heka or mantras. Mantras are the psychophysical causal forces of human behavior. A lot of words. Basically means it's what controls your moods and your behaviors. So you chant this sound in a very heightened state of ritual, and you'll become like two drops of water joining as one, celebrating, bringing out the beauty of the divine in each other for the glory of heaven on earth. And finally, why is love a cat? Well, let's talk about cats. The obvious thing about cats is they're picky. Cats are not unconditional lovers, in terms of pets. Maybe a dog is, but a cat will let you know, I'm not interested. This is true. This is what I'm saying. Love is conditional, and it must be. The question is, it must be based on wise conditions, not your cockamamie, wackadoodle inner child issues. I like tall men. Okay, that's great, but that should not be leading your bonding. Look at the scales first: background, health, family, criminal records, etc. Then, when we got a good person in that department, we can add a few extra special frostings on the cake. So cats are demanding. Your mate will be demanding of you psychologically and emotionally. Very demanding to be in a relationship. You have to know how to stroke a cat. There's a science to this. How to stroke certain cats. Certain cats like their belly rub. Some hate their belly rub. Some like their head scratch. Some hate their head scratch. There are certain things the individual likes, your partner likes. This is called rapport or mirroring and love strategies. Rapport, mirroring, and love strategies. You must learn your lover's love strategy. You must learn how to mirror your mate, meaning do things like they do. And they should mirror you. You see? And rapport. How do you create affection? How do you communicate in a way that increases the desire to communicate? You have to be trained in this. Don't feel bad or weird that you don't know it. You didn't know how to drive either until someone taught you. And it's strange to me how the white culture does not have love school as a requirement for marriage. I've done marriage ceremonies, African Kemetic marriage ceremonies, and before I agreed to do the ceremony, the couple had to go through 1 year group couple counseling with me, going through these issues. We would comb through the backgrounds, the health issues, comb through it, comb through the inner child issues, talk about techniques of how to have rapport and how to mirror and how to communicate, and just practice. I will say, now go, here's the technique, now practice right in front of me, and go. And over time they develop very strong skills of maintaining a spiritual relationship, a loving bond. It's not impossible. There is a manual. You've got to come to Gay Africa to get it. This is not psychology either, because you can't just use psychiatric or psychology counseling, what they call couples therapy, by itself. That is, compared to this, very lame. It's very shallow. You need first and foremost words of power. Because the Heka, the words of power, are your talents. You have a genius for love in you. It's already in you, but it may be dead asleep, knocked out for the count. When you chant the psychophysical causal forces of behavior, called the words of power, you will get a talent, innate, an organic instinct, an intuitive sense of love without being taught. Because you can go to 1,000 therapists and read 1,000 books on love and relationships. But you only need that book or that therapist that works for you. Doesn't mean the other 1,000 books don't have valuable information. But they may not suit you. So how do you know which book to pick? Which therapist to have? If you chant the sounds of love, if you chant the cat sounds, the meow, the purrs of this spirit in you, the cat spirit. The cat spirit knows instinctively, has good instincts about love. So we chant these sounds, Ong Xiang Hua Klang Ja, Ong, and over time, you just know how you, at this moment, have to instinctively, intuitively respond in a loving way to your mate in this exact moment. After we get your natural cat spirit awakened magically, spiritually, ritually, the cat will lead you from within to the things without, the book, the class, the seminar, whatever you may need, that are perfect for you. You won't be wasting your time on the wrong books, wrong seminars, if you need those after our training. So you need magic. You need voodoo to awaken your spirit of love, which instinctively, without training from the outside, knows how to love. That's the first step. Without that, the rest is shenanigans. Okay? So we covered a lot today on love. This is the month we're in, the month of Libra the Scales, to review this video over and over and think about your love life. Chant this sound, Ong Xiang Hua Klang Ja, Ong Xiang Hua Klang Ja, Ong Xiang Hua Klang Ja. Get that hua, that H in the hua, very breathy. Hua. Ong Xiang Hua Klang Ja, Ong Xiang Hua Klang Ja. And then go over your relationship that you're in or that you've been in from a few of the bullets I've given you. What were their health histories? What were their family histories? Why do they break up in other relationships? And start looking at that from an objective mathematical scale point of view, and you'll see the reason why you broke up was already written in that vetting, in that due diligence list. You would do more interviewing for a housemaid than you would for your mate. And the mate is far more important in your life. It's ridiculous, the white people's culture, what they value. You get a license for how to drive a car, but not how to drive the airplane of love. So we have all these dead bodies and crash and burn airplanes all over the field of love, the field of roses. White people have a very strange cultural priority system. And so, stay tuned for when I begin to offer the training programs on love. It's not difficult when you have divinity involved. When you have these mandalas of the zodiac and these words of power, it's not hard to learn this. It's not like years and years of training, 10, 20 years of training to become some kind of counselor or therapist on this topic. It's natural, it's organic. It's like planting. I teach you how to plant. You know the logic of planting seeds. We transfer the same logic to planting the seeds of the rose bed of love. So, review this video, chant these sounds as much as you can for the lunar cycle into the next new moon, and may you have love in your life, love eternal. Dwawend Hotapu.